Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we will crack the credit code because today, credit is your character. Brought to you by Delaware Community Reinvestment Action Council and the Money School. My name is Rashmi Rangan. You can always reach me at rrangan@dcrac.org. Credit score, if it is below 549, go to your mama. If it is above 700, it's golden. Any score between 549 and 700, you have to be very careful. So that is your credit score. What goes in the credit score, once you understand, it's easy. So I'll talk about what goes in the credit score, then how to find your credit score. And lastly, we'll talk about credit reports. You must pay all your bills on time, 35%. The biggest chunk of your credit score is based on, do you pay your bills on time? Get in the habit of paying every single bill on time. Not only do you save money because you avoid all those late fees, you also build your credit. To make sure that you're able to pay your bills on time, you need to create a budget. You need to know when money is coming in, how much is coming in, what money has gone out, what is the current balance or cash flow. The reason you want to know your cash flow is you don't want any payment to bounce. Once you've got control over your budget and your cash flow, then just automate. So all your bills are paid automatically on time and you never forget. The next factor that makes up your credit score is how much of the available credit to you actually use. 30% of your score is based on of the credit available, how much have you used? It is always a good idea on every single credit card to know what is available credit. And then you calculate and try and use only 30% of the available credit. You have 5 cards, you know what the available credit is. Alternate your cards. Use card 1 one month, 2 the next month, 3 the next month. So you'll be using it regularly and you will also know to use just about 30%. When you look at your credit report or your bill and you see you've charged more than 30% or what you're paying on is still more than 30%, pay down until it is up to 30% of your available credit. So if the available credit is $1,000, $300 is a good idea to revolve. That means keep open. Ideally, you want to pay it in full. But if you can't, then no more than $300 until it is paid down. Another thing you can do is call up your credit card company and say, increase my credit limit. Once the credit limit has increased, your percentage also reduces. So say you had charged $600 on 1,000, and I'm suggesting pay it down to about 300, but that is an impossibility. It's easier to pick up the phone, call your credit card company and raise your credit limit to 2,000. What happened just now? Just by that one phone call, without doing anything, you've actually reduced your credit usage to 30% because $600 of $2,000 is 30%. Do not close any cards that you have, because the next slide will talk about length of your credit history. If you opened your credit when you were 18, but that card is not something you're using, by closing it, two things happen. You erase your credit history, good, bad, or ugly, doesn't matter, time. And the other thing is you reduce the full amount of credit available. I mentioned those 5 cards where you have $1,000 limit on each. So you have 5,000. If you close one, now you have only 4,000 available. So that's yet another reason that you don't want to close credit cards. So before I go to time, pay all your bills on time, all the time. 35% of your score is dependent on that. To be able to make sure you're paying on time all the time, you need to have a good handle over your budget. You need to know your cash flow. And ideally, you want everything automated so your bills are paid on time. Even if you forget about it, the money is paid. The second piece, an important one, is credit usage. Know how much credit is available to you and make sure you don't use more than 30% of the credit that is available to you. Get in the habit of paying all your credit card bills in full every single time you're billed. So that's 65%. Length of time is 15%. We are at 80% already, right? 35% pay on time, 30% credit usage, length of time 15%. Time is on your side. You don't have to worry. Even if you did nothing at all about your credit, in time, your credit will heal. Usually, as soon as you turn 18, you are expected to have credit. And you do, either credit card, car loan, student loan, personal loan, some way, shape, or form. By the time you're 18, you've begun your credit profile. That's one reason do not close accounts that have helped you establish your length of time. If your credit is really, really, really horrible bad today, don't worry. Even if you did absolutely nothing, it's okay, right? Because time heals all wounds, including credit wounds. So we took care of 80%. Pay on time, know how much is available and use only 30%. And the third thing, length of time you have no control over. Time will take care of itself. And the remaining two are split this way. New debt, 10%. So when you take on new debt, you are signaling to the world that you have a need to borrow. They say that when it rains, is not the time to buy a new umbrella. From a fiscal planning perspective, you want to apply for new debt when you don't need it. If in your financial plan, you're looking to borrow money, maybe for home ownership or starting a business or something a year down the road, now would be a good time to acquire credit and build up your credit profile. If you are going to buy that umbrella when it is raining, it is going to cost you more money. Second, you actually know that one day it'll rain as it is today, right? So you have to have an umbrella. And that's what credit is, new debt. When you have recently acquired new debt, you're signaling that you may have money problems. If your new lender is a subprime lender, the one that lends only to those with no credit, no problem, bad credit, no problem, no job, no problem, then basically you're telling the whole world that my credit is impaired. Your mama used to say you're judged by the company you keep. On your credit report, you want to show that you keep good company in terms of borrowing. So your lenders are lenders that do a thorough credit check and weed out the subprime, the credit impaired, so that you signal to the world, I am good. And you're going to ask, how do I do that? I will have an answer. We do have great credit builder programs in the state of Delaware. The last one is 10% on inquiries. When you apply for a loan, sometimes for a job, insurance, your credit is reviewed. When your credit is reviewed, it dings your credit just a tad bit. Okay? There are rules that a lender looks at your credit report. They can look at who looked at your credit report in the last 6 months. If an employer looks at your credit report, they can look at who looked at your credit report for the last 2 years. If there are too many inquiries, your score will go down. So be smart about applying for credit. So that was the credit score. Now I'll go to credit report. And by the way, where can you get your credit score? You already know. Credit Karma is a free site. Credit Wise program out of Capital One, free. You don't have to be a Capital One customer to take advantage of Credit Wise. I have signed up for Credit Wise and it is a beautiful thing. If there are things that are happening on my credit that I ought to be aware of, I get an email. So Credit Karma, Credit Wise, Discover Bank has. Go to some site where it is free. No two sites will give you the same score. They may be off by 50 points, 100 points. It happens. But at least that score can be your North Star. If you looked at your score and it is 500, keep looking at that same place. And as your score improves because you've taken advantage of Credit Builder, then it'll improve. It'll show on that same credit score. So if you went to Credit Karma, stick to Credit Karma. Now, if you went to apply for a loan at Bank A will have a totally different score. That's okay. All this is self-help. You're trying to figure out how to improve your own score. Now, credit report. You cannot escape the responsibilities of tomorrow by evading it today, and that is what credit report is showing. Are you escaping today's responsibility or tomorrow's responsibility by evading it today? So are you late? Because tomorrow's responsibility, once you borrow, is to repay. I didn't come up with this. A great man did, Abraham Lincoln. You have a right to your own free credit report annually from each of the 3 bureaus. Here is the phone number, 877-322-8228. Or better still, go to theannualcreditreport.com. And if you need to, send it by mail. Annual Credit Report, PO Box 105281, Atlanta, Georgia, zip code 30348-5281. When you are mailing it, you will need to provide proof of your identity. So copy of your driver's license and proof of your address. So copy of a bill. Here are the 3 bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Sometimes you might not get that credit report, in which case call them and get your free credit report. Once a year, you must make it a habit to order your credit report and go through it, usually with a highlighter, so you can highlight things that you need to take care of. Your credit report contains all your personal information way on top. Your name, address, prior addresses, aliases, last four of your social security, etc. Take a look at it. If it is inaccurate, you must get it corrected. All it takes is, if you got it online, then go online, right there, and fix it. Otherwise, mail copies of accurate information with a request that that information which is reported incorrectly gets reported correctly. Public information. So your credit report puts you in the worst light first before you get to the good in your credit report. What are some of the worst things that can happen? Bankruptcies, liens, judgments. If they are on your credit report, that's the first thing somebody will see. They do drag your score down. Try not to get anything to judgment. Show up at a hearing, because judgment could mean wage attachment. If you have accounts that are in collection, they'll show up next. If you have accounts that you're late on, they'll show up next. Then all your good lines of credit. Lastly, who inquired? Not in your credit report is your race, religion, medical history. All the medical debt does show up. Personal lifestyle, personal background, political preferences, and criminal records. These are not on your credit report. Also, removed from your credit report are Chapter 13 that was successfully completed 7 years ago. If it was 6 years ago or 6 years have passed since your Chapter 13 was successfully completed, one more year and it will no longer show up on your purged credit. Chapter 13 or Chapter 7 that was filed but unsuccessfully 10 years ago. So it is 10 years, it stays and haunts your credit report. Any other derogatory you've talked about, and you know about the 7-year-old rule. So collections, delinquent accounts, they stay for 7 years. A tax lien that you paid, from the date you paid, it'll stay on your credit report for 7 years. A few things that you can do towards building credit: get rent and utilities in your name, obtain a secured credit card, look for credit builder programs. In Delaware, the two that I talk about are from Artisans Bank and from Stepping Stones Community Federal Credit Union. Both of these programs require you to be working with a financial coach. Get in the habit of using and paying off your credit cards every month. Credit repair. You can do it yourself. It's easy. In fact, you must do it yourself if there are things in your credit that need to be repaired. Do not pay anyone. If money is burning a hole in your pocket, pay the lender, the entity that you owe money to, not an intermediary. Check your score. Redo your budget. See if there is money you can save to be put toward credit repair. Decide how much you have each month to work with to repair your credit, and then begin that process of fixing what's wrong. So correcting mistakes on your credit report, easy. Write and send documentation, but only duplicates, never send original. If the bureau made a mistake, they must correct it. Then they will notify all other credit bureaus. You can request that they notify those who looked at your credit report in the past 6 months. The credit bureau has 30 days to reply and send you the corrected credit report. If there has been fraud on your credit report, you've got to report it. There are phone numbers at Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You can also place a fraud alert on your file. If you do the fraud alert on your file, accessing your own credit can become a huge nightmare. So go into it knowingly. If your identity has been stolen, you must fight back. In the way you can, place a fraud alert, contact the fraud departments at each of these credit bureaus, close accounts, call the creditor if the account is not yours and close it. File a police report, get a copy of that police report. Contact the Federal Trade Commission. You can even call at 877 ID theft. File your complaint. Don't forget the Social Security Administration, motor vehicles, postal inspector, police report, all your lenders, and yes, the IRS. Because if your identity is stolen, someone is impersonating as you. You want the world to know you are it. There is no clone. And if there is, that clone is a fraud, right? Avoid mistakes. Plan for emergencies. Remember, you don't buy an umbrella when it is raining. You know that one day it'll rain. So you buy an umbrella when you can and use it when it rains. Avoid excessive debt load. This is where budget comes in so handy. You know what is coming in, and that is what you've got to live on. Oftentimes, if what's coming in doesn't work, that is when we pull out our credit cards. That's no way to live. In our lifetimes, we will earn millions of dollars, yet we will die owing debt. Doesn't make sense. The pandemic has made it absolutely clear that job loss can happen. There is no such thing as job security anymore. Plan for if you lose a job, or if you choose to walk away, you have to have a plan. Don't bounce checks. They cost money and show up not on your credit. It could show up on your credit report, but on your check system. Pay utilities on time. When you pay them on time, they don't report, but you pay them late, boom, there they go. Pay your rent on time. Even if your landlord does not report to the credit bureau, if you are going to ask them for a letter of reference, they could write that, yes, Jane Doe pays her rent always on the first. Sometimes it is late, but never after the fourth. Know your health insurance plan too. If your health insurance covers some payments and they show up on your credit report, you can fight with your health insurance company. But there is this timeline, 1 year, which makes it absolutely critical that you look at your credit report annually. So if a medical bill shows up, you can contact either your insurance company or your medical provider. Something that we forget to do is notify everyone about our new address. So make sure your lenders, IRS, post office, Social Security, they all know what your new address is. Because what happens? You move somewhere, your bills are coming, say, I bought the house that you moved from. Your bills are coming to me. I'm opening all my mail now. And if your Social Security statement came to me now, I know everything about you. So be very, very careful. Avoid these avoidable mistakes. Access to credit is a civil right and we fight for it. But continued access is your privilege. And you've got to make sure that you are responsible credit user. The decisions you make now about how you manage your finances and handle money and credit can affect your ability to borrow money and the cost of borrowing money. Here's an example. You borrowed $500 for 1 year. If your score was awesome, 760, your rate is 3%, you're paying $50.23 a month. With a score of 620, which is mediocre, the rate is say 6%, you're paying $59.64 a month. And if your score is low, 500, your rate could be 12%, and you're paying $80.72. And don't think it's only $30 difference. Why bother with my credit? I'll tell you why you ought to bother with your credit in short time. Here are a few credit rules to live by. No late payments. Work toward no minimum payments. Definitely more than minimum payment. Ideally, pay in full. Use 25% of your available credit. I said earlier 30%. 30% is fine. But if you can, then go to 25%. Don't go sign a loan, not even for your daughter. Establish good credit early in life, but it's never too late to begin improving on your credit. Guard your credit at all times. If you pay less than full on your credit card, say this was $1,200 outstanding bill, the interest rate was 18%, you're not using the credit card. In fact, you've put it away in a safe deposit box. You also paid on time all the time, never late once. You paid $24 a month. It'll take you 8 years to pay it off. $36 a month, 4 years to pay it off. $48 a month, 3 years. $60 a month, 2 years. This is a beautiful, beautiful way to explain. And I'm going to click on it. Hopefully you can see it. I can.
What if you could create the tools you need for work yourself? With Monday.com workflow.
Okay.
If you have a large amount of credit card debt, you're only making a minimum payment. You're not going to pay it off anytime soon. In fact, if you only make minimum payments, it could be decades before you find yourself debt-free again. Say, for example, you have $10,000 in credit card debt, which is represented by the water line in this glass. In order to pay off that $10,000, you'll need to empty that entire glass by returning the money you owe your credit card company. So every month you pour out a little water by making your minimum payment, which is on average around $150. That payment lowers the total amount you owe to $9,858. It's a little bit lower, but not much. Unfortunately, there are outside influences that can raise the payment, mainly the interest. Interest normally charges you around 17% of your outstanding balance. After 17% interest on your outstanding balance is charged, that brings your new debt amount to $9,999. So after 1 month, you've paid your credit card company $142, and your total debt is only gone down by 4. The next month, if you still only make the same minimum payment of $142, your debt will be down to $9,857. Again, there's that pesky interest sneaking up on you. So after paying 17% interest again, your debt is back up to $9,998. That means after paying your credit card company $284, your total debt has only gone down by $2. After a year of making that same minimum payment every month, you'll have paid your credit card company $1,846, but you still owe $9,995. That means it'll take you an entire year just to lower your debt for $5. And a year later, you've only lowered what you owe your credit card company by another $5. Eventually, you'll see that if you took action to lower your debt, the money you're paying the credit card company could go towards things that you'd much rather have, like a used car, or a brand new car, or part of your child's college education, or even grad school. Then, after a quarter century and more than $40,000, your debt will only be $1,578 less. Only after 35 years without a single late or missed payment will you finally start to see some progress when you have a little more than $1,000 left to pay. Then, after 36 years of paying $142 minimum payments, 17% interest every month, you'll finally have paid off your entire $10,000 in debt. But in order to pay off that $10,000, you've taken more than 3.5 decades of your life and spent more than 60 grand. Just imagine if you had an extra $61,060. You could have used that for anything from shopping and vacations to paying your mortgage or rent. Or you could just set it aside for retirement. You could even have spent that money on your children or grandchildren. Because even if you didn't have them before you got into debt, you could wind up with both of them after 36 years.
If you're a Delaware homeowner and you haven't made the switch to solar, then you're missing out on the #1 home improvement project to get rid of your power bills and that pays you monthly. Most people don't know this, but going solar costs.
All right. Wow. I hope I'm still on. Yes, I am. And let's begin sharing this again. This is interesting. So interesting. I try to do too many things and sometimes it works. Hopefully this did. All right. Your good credit is so important that you need to know it helps everywhere. Jobs, to get a phone, to get a store card, rent an apartment, buy or lease a car, buy a house, get a personal loan, get health care insurance, car insurance, home insurance. Wherever you turn, credit is important. Your credit is your character. You could be Mother Teresa. If you don't have good credit, you won't get a loan. Mother Teresa will get a grant, not a loan. To establish credit, pay always on time. Look into credit builder programs. Get references from your landlord, utilities. Gas card, store card are a good way to get started. Secured loan, secured card is another good way to get started. The 7-year rule is very important to get a handle around because credit bureaus may report negative information for 7.5 years from the date of delinquency, the date that you were late, except bankruptcy is reported for 10 years. There is no time limit for criminal convictions. And there is no time limit. That means your unpurged credit history. If an employer offers you a salary greater than $75,000 a year, you're requesting credit for more than $150,000. Usually that happens when you're buying a home. And if you are getting life insurance, more than $150,000. Lawsuit, unpaid judgments, 7-year of statute of limitations or statute of limitations, whichever is longer. So that is, in a nutshell, a 7-year rule. It's only for education purpose. Don't focus on this. Look at your credit report, and should you need help understanding it, you and I can schedule a Zoom call and go over it. Protect yourself. Protect your social security number. The only place that this ought to be is in your head and at home inside a secure box. Never in your wallet or your purse. Shed all financial documents. In fact, everything that comes in the mail, including junk mail. But open everything. If it is junk, shred it. Otherwise, review and file it. Protect your mailbox. Check your credit report annually and don't pay for these things that are available to you at no cost. Don't give out information freely to anyone unless the call was made by you. If you called your credit card company about something, then the credit card company will want to know all your information. You can give that then. If you are in trouble, avoid those who promise to fix it for money. Talk to your lender, write and explain, work it out with the lender. The most important relationship when you've borrowed money from a lender, and that's what shows up on your credit report, right? The most important relationship is between you and the lender. When you are facing a financial hardship, pick up the phone and talk to the lender. Here are some examples. Say you borrowed money from Bank A and you are having difficulty. You've looked at your budget. You can only pay $5, not $50. Pick up the phone and talk to that bank and say, I am experiencing a financial hardship right now. This is what I'm doing to fix my financial future. I know that I can't pay $50 definitely for the next 3 months. I can only pay $5. We have two choices. I can pay you $5, or you can give me 3 months of breathing room to get my act together. Don't report me late on my credit report. The bank might actually, believe it or not, say, yeah, okay, thank you. Let's work it out. It could be your car payment. Same deal. What is the lender gonna do with your taking your car? They are in the business of making a loan, not they are in the business of selling you money. They're not in the business of selling you cars. So if they have to repossess your car because you didn't communicate with them, it's going to be expensive. So picking up the phone, talking, explaining, and asking for grace is a grace you can give yourself. Same with a mortgage. If you are having difficulty, you can call your mortgage company. And if not, if your call is not heeded, reach out to financial coaches and ask them to intervene on your behalf. But do it yourself. Communication is the absolute key to good, sound financial planning. Communicate with yourself about money. Communicate with your lender when you are in trouble. Write, explain, work it out with the lender. The most important piece in money management is communicating and working things out, because this is what is going to happen with our relationship with money or our relationship with anyone. Most of the times it is perfect. And when It is not perfect. The only solution is communication. I fight with my husband all the time. And it's the communication that resolves our disagreements, right? Debt consolidation. There are many kinds: the personal loan debt consolidation, student loan debt consolidation, refinancing your mortgage is a debt consolidation. Just when you're thinking about consolidating, be careful. Seek guidance from a trusted source, because debt consolidation is often riddled with chips, tricks, traps. You might end up doing yourself more harm than good. Here's an example. You're consolidating 3 loans for 5 years at 15%, but one of those loans will be paid off within 1 year and another loan is only 5%. So by consolidating them, yeah, it is convenience, but no convenience. No, it is convenient, but convenience costs money. There are occasions when bankruptcy could be one of the options in your financial plan. In those instances, you must understand the pros and cons of filing bankruptcy, plus seek professional guidance. If you go to the US Bankruptcy Court website, you have access to a large number of financial counselors who are contracted with the department, with the courts. Chapter 7 is liquidation. Basically, you're saying, okay, whatever I have, you can take it and forgive my debt. You have no debts to repay. Chapter 13 is reorganization. If you're a business, that is chapter 11. It's like a debt consolidation of last resort. You keep the assets, but be very careful. During the foreclosure crisis, this is what we saw. Homeowners filed bankruptcy, chapter 13, in hopes of making sure that they didn't lose their homes. But they didn't continue making payments. They paid to the trustee, but they didn't pay the lender. So the lender went to the trustee and asked that they go ahead with the foreclosure, even though you're in bankruptcy, and they can do that. What do you do in bankruptcy? Everything that you owed until yesterday is what you're paying in bankruptcy. Mortgage, you are paying in bankruptcy only things as of yesterday, or even a car as of yesterday. But if you still have 20 years left to pay on your home, or 3 years left to pay on your car, you will have to pay bankruptcy payment plus your regular car payment, regular mortgage payment. And that was why many people lost their homes. So we talked about bankruptcy. Cash advances are the most expensive credit card debt. Never use that credit card as an ATM machine. Consequences of cash advance: your minimum payment seldom gets applied to this expensive debt. So cash advances are incredibly expensive. Co-signing: you, the co-signer, will be responsible for the loan. It will show up on your credit report. It will show up in debt to income ratio calculations. Loan is yours. Lender looks at borrower and the co-signer separately to see if the lender will make a loan. But when all is said and done about co-signing, you, the co-signer, are on the hook. Joint credit. Lender looks at the couple, not individuals, to decide if they get credit. Credit and divorce. You could be held liable for your ex-spouse's debt. Divorce doesn't happen overnight. You know for a long time this marriage ain't working. Divorce is absolutely certain. In those instances, re-establish credit in your name alone. Close all credit that you jointly acquired, so you aren't on the hook for your exes. Remove your soon-to-be ex as authorized user on your credit cards. There aren't very many consumer protections, but here are a few. These federal consumer protection laws are, but their name basically tells a whole lot. FACTA, the Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, gives you the right to a fair and accurate credit reporting of your credit transactions. But how can they be held to this law, the credit bureaus, unless you hold them accountable? How do you hold them accountable? By looking at your credit report annually. And if it is not reporting fairly and accurately your credit transactions, you get them to fix and accurately and fairly report your credit transactions. Truth in lending. The most powerful protection that you have is that the lender must tell you truthfully your money or your life. You sign that paper anytime you borrow money from an institution, be it title loan, payday loan, student loan, mortgage, car loan. You're signing this document. It's really a one-pager. Big bold on the top, it'll say Truth in Lending Act disclosure. When you come across that document, slow down a little, take a look at it. Usually it'll have a little table. The table will show APR, what is the annual percentage rate of the loan you're borrowing. Then it'll show you how much you borrowed. Then it'll show you how much is the finance charge over the life of the loan. Last column will show you exactly principal, interest, finance charge, the total that you will repay over the life of the loan. Below that, it'll tell you how many payments you have to make and the dollar amount, as well as when your first payment is due. So if you receive this Truth in Lending disclosure from me saying, I'm charging you 360% APR, you're borrowing $200 from me. In 30 days, come back with $800. If you don't, I'll take your car. Are you going to take that loan? I hope not. But all of that has been truthfully disclosed to you in this Truth in Lending Disclosure Act, which, by the way, you sign. Now, if that Truth in Lending Disclosure Act was written in my language, Hindi, and you didn't understand one word of it, but you signed it, if I haul you into the court, the judge is going to ask you one question. Is this your signature? And if it is, then you're bound by those terms. That is how important Truth in Lending Disclosure is. You have a right to be notified about the true cost of borrowing. When you borrow, you receive a TILA notice that you sign. Be sure that you understand it. Is the amount you borrowed correct? Are the total finance charges payable. When all is said and done, how much will you have paid? What happens if you don't pay on time? Late fees are disclosed there, or don't pay at all. Repossession, possession, or foreclosure is disclosed. So truth in lending is something that you must take a look at. Fair Credit Billing Act. Use your credit card when you get a bill, that bill better be fair. You have a right to be billed accurately. You have a right to dispute mistakes. Therefore, the only way you can exercise those rights is by making sure you read your statements as soon as you receive them. You have a right to have the mistakes corrected in a timely fashion. While you're disputing, be sure to continue to make your payments. If you are correct, you will receive a credit. If you are not correct, interest will accrue. So if you're paying, then you wouldn't have accrued any interest. Equal Credit Opportunity Act is ECOA. It simply says, thou shalt not be discriminated in thy search for credit. So no discrimination on the basis of race, gender, marital status, age, and there is an asterisk, I will tell you why, national origin, religion, source of income, prior exercise of consumer protection rights. When you apply for credit, within 30 days, you must know whether you're approved and if you're denied, why you were denied. You have a right to get credit without a cosigner. Age. Age is considered only to make favorable decisions, such as the reverse mortgage, 62 and older, or to be sure that you are at least 18 years old. I mentioned reverse mortgage. When I speak about home ownership, I do talk about reverse mortgage. It is a very expensive form of borrowing, often a last resort in making sure you don't lose your home for 62 years and older, with a family discussion where family, children, grandchildren know in advance that they don't have the certainty that they will inherit the house that the parents, grandparents are obtaining the reverse mortgage with. Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Basically, it says no contact before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. So if you're getting those collection calls, they are violating the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Or if you write to them and say, do not contact me, they cannot contact you, but they will take you to court. Or if you have an attorney and you notify the collector that contact my attorney, they cannot contact you. If they do, they violated the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Notify your attorney. Also, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act says no threats, no harassment, no deception. Written notice is required. The amount, who the creditor is, within 5 days of first contact. If debt is not yours, you have the obligation to notify them within 30 days. So written notice, you are being called, you can write and ask, who is the creditor? How much is the amount? Show me the details. prove to me. And that concludes my presentation on cracking the credit code. I talked about a few things very quickly, summarizing. Credit scores are important. Know your credit score. Doesn't matter what source, that should guide you. You know what source you used, follow that on a regular basis. There are 5 things that go into the credit score. 2 are incredibly important. Pay your bills on time and know how much is available. Use about 30% of the available credit that you have. Those 2 are the critical ones. Look at your credit report annually. You have a right to it. If there are mistakes, get them corrected. Also, if there's fraud, file a fraud report. Lastly, there are a few consumer protections. Exercise them. The only way to exercise them is when you look at your credit report. Then you can exercise the fact of fair credit, fair and accurate credit reporting act. Gosh. Fair Credit Billing Act, if you open your credit bill and see what's in it. So thank you so much and see you next week.